I hadn't seen Micah in 2 years, not since the night he left with nothing but a backpack and a look I couldn't forget. So when I opened my apartment door and saw him standing there, drenched from the rain, eyes red, hoodie soaked through, I froze. For a second, he didn't say anything, just looked at me like he wasn't sure if he should be here. "I didn't know where else to go," he said, voice hoarse. I didn't say anything right away. My mind was sprinting. The last time we spoke, we weren't exactly on good terms. Things had ended messy. Too many late-night arguments, too many things left unsaid. But looking at him now, all of that felt like it belonged to someone else's life. "Come in," I said finally, stepping aside. He hesitated, then crossed the threshold, water dripping from his clothes onto the floor. I shut the door behind him and locked it out of habit. Micah stood in the middle of my living room like he didn't know what to do with his hands. He looked thinner, tired, like life had been chewing him up since the last time I saw him. "I didn't mean to just show up," he said. "I know this is probably—" "It's fine," I said. "Sit. You want a towel?" He nodded, and I grabbed one from the hallway closet. When I came back, he was on the couch, shoulders hunched, elbows on his knees. He took the towel and wiped his face, then buried it in his hands. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. I sat down in the chair across from him. "For what?" "For showing up like this. For everything." I didn't say anything, not because I didn't have thoughts. God, I had so many thoughts, but because I didn't know which one to start with. Micah finally looked up. "Do you hate me?" That caught me off guard. "No," I said, too fast. He searched my face like he didn't believe me, like he wanted to believe me but couldn't quite let himself. "I've been living out of my car the last few days," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Things went bad with the guy the first was seeing. He got controlling. And when I finally left, I didn't have anywhere to go. I felt something twist in my chest. Anger. Sadness. Something else I didn't want to name yet. You should have called me," I said quietly. "I didn't think you'd answer." "Well," I said, gesturing around us. "I did." Micah nodded slowly, like he was still trying to process that I'd let him in. "Do you want to take a shower?" I asked. He blinked. Yeah, that'd be nice." I handed him some clean clothes from my drawer, an old hoodie and sweatpants, and showed him to the bathroom. While he was in there, I stood in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, trying to breathe. I hadn't expected any of this. I heard the water shut off about 10 minutes later. He came out wrapped in the towel I gave him, hair damp, my clothes hanging a little looser on his frame than I remembered. "Thanks," he said, looking unsure of himself. I know I've got no right to be here, but—" "You don't have to keep apologizing," I said. He looked down, brushing his damp hair back with one hand. I didn't think I'd ever be back in this apartment. "Me either," I said honestly. He glanced up. "But you didn't slam the door in my face." "No," I said. "I didn't." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, he said, "Can I stay? Just tonight. I'll find something else tomorrow." "You can stay," I said, "for as long as you need." His eyes flicked up again, and for a moment, I saw the version of him I used to know. The softer one. The one who used to dance with me in the kitchen at midnight. The one who used to kiss me like the world was ending. He nodded. "Thank you." I grabbed a blanket from the closet and set it on the couch. "You can take the bed," he said, before I could say anything. "I'll crash out here." "It's fine. You need sleep more than I do." "I'll be fine," he said. Really, but I could tell by the way his hands trembled slightly when he took the blanket. He wasn't. And I didn't know how to fix that. But I was going to try. Micah didn't fall asleep right away. I could hear him shifting on the couch, the blanket rustling, the springs creaking every time he moved. After about 20 minutes, I got up to grab some water and found him sitting upright, staring at the dark TV screen like it might give him answers. "You okay?" I asked from the kitchen doorway. He looked over, eyes a little dazed. "Yeah, just hard to shut my brain off." "Want something to help?" I held up the whiskey bottle. He gave a small smile. "Sure." We sat on opposite ends of the couch, sipping from mismatched glasses. The silence between us wasn't comfortable yet, But it wasn't sharp either, more like we were tiptoeing around something too fragile to touch. He broke it first. Remember that night we stayed up watching horror movies until 4 a.m. and then you screamed louder than I did at that stupid jump scare? I gave him a look. It was a very realistic clown. He laughed quietly. You almost spilled popcorn all over the bed. I did spill popcorn all over the bed. That made him smile wider. And for a second, it felt like we were back in that version of us. The version that hadn't imploded yet. I missed this, he said softly. I didn't know what to say, so I just took another sip. I didn't leave because I stopped caring, he added. I left because I was scared I cared too much. That hit harder than I expected. I thought you left because we fought too much, I said. We did, but that wasn't the real reason. Not for me. I turned slightly to face him. He looked tired. Really tired. But there was something in his eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. Honesty. Or maybe just no energy left to pretend. I felt like I was ruining your life, he said. Like I was dragging you down. You weren't, I said. I thought I was. And then when things started going bad with Jordan, I kept thinking about you. About how we used to fight, yeah, but we always made up, we always tried. With him, it was just anger. Control. Like I owed him for every time he didn't blow up. I clenched my jaw. Did he hit you? No, he said quickly. Not physically. Just made me feel small all the time. I exhaled slowly. I'm sorry, he nodded, staring down at his glass. I should have left sooner. I didn't say it, but the words sat on my tongue anyway. You should have never left me. Instead I said, you're here now. He looked up and our eyes met. Do you hate me? He asked again. No, I said, quieter this time. But I did. For a while. I get it. And I wanted to forget you. I really did. But you didn't. No, I said. I didn't. Michael leaned back against the armrest, stretching his legs across the couch. One brushed mine. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. I don't know what I'm doing, he said. I don't know where I'm going next. I don't even know if I'm ready to be here. But you are here, I said. He nodded. I am. He looked so vulnerable in that moment. Not in a pathetic way. In a human way. In a way that made my chest ache a little. Do you want me to stay? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away. Then I moved his legs gently, sat down beside him, and handed him the blanket again. Yes, I said. I want you to stay. Micah stayed. Not just for the night, but the next one too. And the one after that. He didn't say it, but I could tell he didn't want to go back to whatever life he'd left behind. His stuff, a duffel bag and a beat-up phone charger, stayed in the corner of my room, and every morning he'd wake up a little less guarded, a little more like the guy the first used to know. We didn't talk much about us. Not yet. But the space between us kept shrinking. One night, I was brushing my teeth when he knocked lightly on the bathroom door and said, You got a second? I opened it, toothbrush still in my mouth. He stood there in a clean t-shirt and my old sweatpants, holding 2 mugs of tea. I made this, he said, offering one. Figured you'd want something before bed. I nodded, rinsed, and took the mug. Thanks. He didn't move. Just stood there, looking at me like he was working up to something. What? I asked. He shrugged. It's just weird. What is? This. Being here. With you. After everything. I leaned against the sink. Yeah, it is. But it also feels not weird. Like my brain's telling me this shouldn't be happening, but my body's like, yeah, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. I smiled slightly. Your body's smarter than your brain, he chuckled. That's debatable. We stood there for a moment, sipping tea in silence. Then he said, Do you remember that time we got caught in the rain at that outdoor concert? You had a panic attack in the middle of the crowd. I nodded. Yeah, You were the only one who noticed. He looked at me. I still think about that. How you looked at me afterward, like you were afraid I'd leave. I didn't respond. Because I had been afraid. He took a step closer. I never stopped caring, you know. I know, I said quietly. I just didn't know how to show it. You're showing it now. Another beat. Then he whispered, "Can I sleep in your bed tonight?" I blinked. Not because I didn't expect it, but because of the way he asked. Like it wasn't about intimacy, like it was about safety. Yeah, I said, you can. We climbed into bed without turning off the lamp. There was space between us, but not much. Enough to breathe, enough to wonder. After a while, he turned on his side to face me. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think we could have made it work? Back then? I looked at him, at the way his face softened in the low light, at the way his eyes searched mine. I think we were trying, I said. But we were too young, too angry, too scared. And now? I don't know. Are we still those guys? He shook his head slowly. I don't think I am. Not completely. We didn't say anything after that. Eventually, the light went off, and the space between us disappeared. He didn't hold me. I didn't reach for him. But when I woke up the next morning, our legs were tangled, and neither of us moved. We started falling into a rhythm. Micah would help me cook dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta or rice bowls, and clean up without me asking. He always dried the dishes with that same little towel slung over his shoulder, like it belonged there. Sometimes he'd hum softly, off-key but familiar. I hadn't realized how quiet my apartment had been until his voice started filling it again. One night, a week after he moved in, we ended up on the couch watching old episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He laughed at the same jokes he used to quote back when we lived together the first time. I caught myself smiling just watching him. Halfway through the second episode, he leaned into me, his shoulder brushing mine. You ever think we're pretending this is normal? He asked. I looked at him. It feels normal. Yeah, but that's the weird part, he said. I show up out of nowhere, dump all my drama on you, and you just let me in. You needed help, and you gave it, he said. Just like that. You would have done the same for me. Micah gave me a look. You don't know that. I do. He didn't say anything after that. Just leaned his head on my shoulder and stayed there. I could feel the weight of it, warm and familiar, like we were slipping back into something we never really left. You remember the night we first hooked up? He asked suddenly. I blinked. Yeah. It was cold as hell. You had that little space heater by the bed that kept shutting off. I laughed. Yeah, I thought we were going to get carbon monoxide poisoning. You kept trying to act like it wasn't freezing, but you were shaking like a leaf. So were you, he smiled. But you still pulled me into bed, and I let you. Yeah, I said. You did. Another pause. Then, softly, he asked, Do you miss it? Us? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the way his laugh used to echo in my kitchen. The way he used to brush his teeth and talk to me through a mouthful of foam. The way he kissed me like he was memorizing it. Yeah, I said finally. I do. Micah shifted, just slightly, like he wanted to say something more. But he didn't. Instead, he whispered, I'm scared. Of what? Of falling back into something that feels good just because it's familiar. Of hurting you again. Of not knowing if this is real or just survival. I nodded. Me too. He pulled back to look at me. His eyes were dark, reflective. But I keep thinking about how it felt. Last night, waking up next to you. How did it feel? Safe, he said. Real, like something I didn't think I'd have again. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything at all. Instead, I reached over and took his hand. He didn't pull away. 2 weeks passed like that. Quiet mornings, late dinners, inside jokes slipping back into our conversations like they never left. Micah started doing little things, folding my laundry without asking, fixing the leaky faucet I'd been ignoring, picking up my favorite granola bars at the store like he still remembered my habits. I tried not to read too much into it, tried to act like we were just roommates, temporarily. But we both knew it wasn't just that. One Friday night, I got home late from work. My shoulders were tight, my brain fried. I walked in to find the lights dimmed, a candle flickering on the coffee table, and the smell of garlic and tomatoes thick in the air. Micah looked up from the stove. "Hey," I blinked. "Did you cook?" "Kind of," he said. "It's just pasta, but I figured you've had a long week." My chest tightened in that quiet, overwhelming way it sometimes does when someone sees you too clearly. "You didn't have to do that," I said. "I wanted to." He set down 2 plates and opened a bottle of wine. Something cheap, something we used to drink back when we were broke and barely scraping by. We ate on the couch, side by side. Our knees brushed more than once. Neither of us moved away. After dinner, we sat in silence for a while, the wine softening the edges of the day. Then Micah said, "Can I ask something kind of intense?" I nodded. "If we tried again," he said carefully, "would you trust me?" The question settled heavy between us. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I want to." "That's fair," he said, eyes dropping to his glass. "But it's not just about trust," I added. "It's about who we are now. What we've both been through." He looked at me. "You think we're too different?" "I think we've changed," I said. "But maybe that's not a bad thing." He leaned back on the couch, one arm draped behind me. "So we take it slow." "Slow," I echoed. His fingers brushed the back of my neck, tentative but warm. "Do I get to kiss you again?" I turned toward him. Our faces were close, close enough to count his lashes, to feel the warmth radiating from his skin. "Not tonight," I said softly, "but maybe soon." He smiled. Small, real, no pressure. "I can live with that." By the end of the month, Micah still hadn't left. He started calling it home without thinking, little slips like, "I'll grab it when I get home," or "We should clean the fridge this weekend." Every time he said we, I felt it in my chest. It scared me how much I liked it. One night, I found him on the balcony wrapped in my hoodie, smoking a cigarette even though he quit a year ago. He looked tired, but not in a bad way. Just thoughtful. "You okay?" I asked, sliding the door shut behind me. "Yeah," he said, "just thinking." "About?" He hesitated. "Us. This. What it means." I leaned against the railing beside him. "I've been thinking about that too." He offered me the cigarette. I didn't smoke, but I took it anyway. Just to hold. Just to feel closer to whatever he was feeling. "I keep wondering if I'm supposed to be making some kind of big gesture," he said. "Like showing you I'm different now, that I'm not going to mess it up again." "You don't need a gesture," I said. "You're here. That's more than enough." Micah stared out at the streetlights below. "I thought about texting you so many times these past 2 years. I'd open the chat, type something out, delete it, over and over. Why didn't you send it?" "I thought I didn't deserve a second chance." I looked at him. "Maybe you don't." That made him blink. "But," I added, "you're making the most of it anyway, and that counts for something." He let out a breath. "I want this to work." "I know. I want you." The words hung in the air. Then he turned toward me, eyes locked on mine. "Can I kiss you now?" This time, I didn't say no. I nodded, and he stepped closer. His hand came up slowly, brushing my cheek, thumb resting just under my jaw. The touch was warm, tentative, like he was still asking even as I leaned in. The kiss was soft, careful, like neither of us wanted to break whatever we were slowly rebuilding. When he pulled back, he kept his forehead against mine. "I've missed you," he whispered. "I've been right here," I said. "But now I am too." Something shifted after that kiss. It wasn't dramatic. No sudden declarations, no rushed hookups. But there was a quiet knowing in everything we did. The way he looked at me when I passed him the remote, the way I let my hand rest a little longer on his back when we stood too close in the kitchen. The lines between what we were and what we were becoming blurred in the best way. That weekend, we went grocery shopping together. It should have been uneventful. But standing in the cereal aisle, Micah picked up a box of the sugary stuff I always teased him for liking and said, "You used to hide these so I wouldn't eat the whole thing." I laughed. "You would eat the whole thing in one night." He smirked. "Still would." "You gonna share this time?" He tossed it into the cart. "Maybe." It felt domestic in a way I hadn't let myself want before. Back home, while putting away groceries, Micah pulled out a little notebook from his backpack and set it on the counter. "What's that?" I asked. He hesitated. "Something I've been working on. Writing stuff down. Thoughts. Memories. Things I wish I'd said back then." I opened it slowly, flipping through neat pages filled with messy, honest handwriting. Micah watching me read was more vulnerable than any kiss we'd shared. "I started it after I left," he said quietly. "Never thought you'd actually see it." I didn't say anything, just closed the notebook and looked at him. "Thank you," I said, "for not throwing this away." "I didn't want to forget," he said. "I didn't want you to forget." He stepped closer, something quiet and certain in his expression. "I want to do this right," he said. "No rushing, no bullshit, just you and me. Real this time." I nodded. And for the first time, I didn't feel scared. I felt ready. We didn't say boyfriends. We didn't say we're back together. But something had solidified between us. Something unspoken and strong. There was no announcement. Just moments stacking on top of each other until they stopped feeling like moments and started feeling like life. One night, we were brushing our teeth side by side in the bathroom like it was the most normal thing in the world when he suddenly leaned in and kissed my shoulder. Just a soft, absent-minded press of his lips. "What was that for?" I asked, through a mouthful of foam. He shrugged. "Just felt like doing it." That was the thing now. He did things. Folded my clothes before I got home from work, replaced the burnt-out bulb above the stove, plugged my phone in when I forgot. And every time I noticed, it chipped away at the last few walls I had left. We didn't sleep together right away. That surprised both of us, I think. The first night we actually let ourselves touch, really touch, was weeks after that kiss on the balcony. We were lying on the couch watching a movie. His legs were tangled with mine under the blanket. I had my head resting just above his chest, feeling his heartbeat. I was dozing off when I felt his hand slide slowly down my arm. "Can I ask you something?" he murmured. "Of course." He hesitated. "Do you still want me? Like, physically?" I lifted my head and looked at him. "Why would you ask that?" "Because we haven't. And I don't want to assume. I've changed. I know I have." "You've changed," I said. "But that's not why." "Then why?" I swallowed. "Because I didn't want it to feel like we were trying to prove something." He exhaled. "Thank God." I smiled. "You thought I didn't want you?" "I thought maybe I'd messed it all up beyond repair." I leaned in, kissed him, slow and deep. He made a small sound in the back of his throat, and my whole body responded to it. We didn't rush. We didn't tear clothes off or crash into each other like some horny movie scene. We moved like we'd been here before, but we wanted to do it differently now. More carefully. More honestly. That night, we slept pressed together, skin against skin. No space between us. No doubt. No regret. Just warmth. Just us. And in the morning, I woke up to him kissing my shoulder again. This time, no toothbrush. No distraction. Just his arm draped across me, breath slow and even. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "You?" I turned toward him, touched his face. "Yeah, I'm more than okay." He smiled. "Can I stay here for real? Not just as your ex. Or a guy who needed help. But as my partner?" I offered. He nodded. Yes, I said. You already are.